talk about some long shot Final Four futures that I got my eye on in some of these regions. We'll start with the South region, where Auburn is the big favorite. They're minus 185 to make the Elite Eight. They're minus 125 to make the Final Four. No interest in that. Yesterday on the show, I said that Auburn would probably be my pick to make it to the Final Four out of this region. I think that would probably be the smart bet. However, there is a team or two that does pique my interest in this South region. We'll start with the team that that piques my interest a lot, is Texas A&M at plus 550. I know a lot of people like Yale, and rightfully so. Yale just knows who they are. They're not going to beat themselves. They have a great coach. They returned just about everybody from their team last year except Danny Wolf, who's now on Michigan, who beat that Auburn team. But I think the fact that Yale beat Auburn is a great thing for Texas A&M, because they're not going to take Yale for granted. They're not going to look at this team as like, oh, this is an Ivy League squad that we're more talented than, that we're bigger than, all these sorts of things. I think A&M's going to be ready. This was a team that was really good in the non-conference. Go look at what they did earlier in the season. They beat Purdue on a neutral. They beat Texas Tech on a neutral. They beat Creighton on a neutral floor as well. Buzz Williams, normally a decent tournament coach for the most part, and this is a veteran team. Like, his group of players have been together for 3-4 years. This isn't one of those teams that's made up of like a bunch of transfers and guys that have come in through the portal. This is guys who have been together for 3-4 years. They've been building towards this moment and this year. And look, if they get past Yale, they're going to get Michigan or UC San Diego. I think they win that game. Auburn, they would play in the Sweet 16 most likely. They beat them a couple weeks ago. I like the path for A&M. We're getting them plus 550 to make the Elite Eight, 12-1 to make the Final Four. I would look at the Aggies. Then we have North Carolina. If they get past San Diego State tonight, the Heels could be a little interesting, and a lot of it has to do with the price. 14-1 to make the Elite Eight, but 40-1 to make the Final Four. When I look at the bottom of this South region, I think we're going to get some chaos. I'm not a fan of Michigan State at all. If you've watched the show, you know that. They're just a team that they're awesome on defense. They have a great coach, but they can't shoot. They were also unranked to start the year. There's a great trend out there of teams that are unranked to start the year that get a top 2 seed, normally flop early on in the tournament, and Michigan State fits that. So I'm not high on Sparty at all. I think Marquette and UNC are a couple teams that I would look at. And again, I like kind of the vibe right now of UNC, and you guys know if you watch the show, I look for this kind of stuff all the time. Everybody's pissed that UNC got into the tournament. Nobody thinks they should be in there. They have one quad 1 win, so watch them win a couple games. Watch them win 3 games. Watch them go to the Final Four. And the price that we're getting, they got RJ Davis on their team. He was the reigning ACC Player of the Year. They got pros on their squad. I get it. Hubert Davis isn't a very good coach. But if they can get past the Aztecs tonight, and I think it'll be a tricky game, I would keep an eye out for Carolina. I just think the prices that we're getting on them are too good to pass up. And then Marquette, as I mentioned, I'm really not a fan of this Marquette team, to be honest with you. I'm really not a fan of Shaka Smart either. Ever since taking VCU to the Final Four, he has been awful in the tournament. But I kind of think it's awesome that Marquette has a chance to do to Michigan State what Michigan State did to them a couple years ago when Marquette was the 2 and Sparty was the 7, and they upset them. I think the Golden Eagles might have a little payback. And Michigan State, to me, reminds me a ton of St. John's. And obviously Marquette has played St. John's 3 times this season. Now, they haven't been able to beat them. But when you're in a tournament setting, and so much of this is about matchups and preparation and getting ready for teams, the fact that Marquette is going to be used to a team like Michigan State, I think is a big advantage. They're going to have by far the best player on the floor in Cam Jones. So I just think the draw is really good for Marquette, North Carolina. I think we could see some craziness on the bottom of that region. So I'd look out for A&M, Marquette, and UNC. As for the West region, right, this is with Florida, and this is with St. John's as well. 3 teams that I would keep an eye on. The first one, Isaac brought it up, is Maryland, with Derek Queen, who's going to be a lottery pick. He reminds me of like college Nikola Jokic. He brings up the ball. He's a great scorer. He's a great passer. He does everything for the Terps. The Crab Five, if you watch college basketball, you know that's the nickname for their starting 5. Maryland is one of the best starting 5s in college basketball. They got to stay out of foul trouble. And also the thing that worries me about the Terps is their head coach, Kevin Willard. He's never been to the second weekend of the big dance, but this team is really good. And if they knock down their 3-pointers, they could be tough to beat. So I would keep an eye out on Maryland. They're plus 425 to make the Elite Eight, plus 900 to make the Final Four. I also like Missouri as well. I talked about it yesterday on the show. To me, Missouri reminds me of Bama from last year and Miami from 2 years ago. Their offense is spectacular. If they can get past Drake, who Isaac said he loves in the first round, if they can get past Drake, I think Missouri could go on a little bit of a run. And then Memphis, I just think their price is insane. 30-1 to make the Elite Eight, 80-1 to make the Final Four. I think they have a really good roster. I get that they don't play in a very good conference. I get that Penny Hardaway scares you a little bit as a head coach, but this team does have a bunch of talent. They went to the finals in the Maui Invitational. They beat Michigan State on a neutral. They won at Clemson. They beat Ole Miss. I mean, they've beaten on some of these teams that are high seeds in the field. So I think the price we're getting on Memphis, 30-1 to win the Elite Eight, 80-1 to make the Final Four. They'd likely have to beat Maryland and Florida, which is why it's so juicy, but I think the price could be worth it. In the East region, it's pretty simple for me. I mean, I like Duke. I think Arizona and Wisconsin would be worth looking at just to make the Elite Eight, potentially, especially the Badgers at the bottom. I've told you guys, I think if St. Mary's plays Bama, nightmare matchup for Bama. I think St. Mary's would upset them. That would really open things up for Wisconsin. So plus 310 to make the Elite Eight. Think that's a decent bet. Arizona, again, they'll likely have to upset Duke, but if Cooper Flagg is banged up, maybe he re-aggravates his ankle, something happens. Tommy Lloyd's always got a talented team, and they're always favorites. So maybe playing in the underdog role would be a great thing for Arizona. Maybe you look at them plus 350 to make the Elite Eight, 10-1 to make the Final Four. And then finally, the Midwest region. Houston is the 1 seed. I got them at plus 150 to make the Final Four. They're still plus 130. I like getting the plus money with Houston. If they get past Gonzaga, I think that the draw really opens up well for them. Now, the Zags will be a tough test, no doubt. Zags got to take care of Georgia, though. That could be an interesting game. But if they do, likely going to get Clemson in the Sweet 16. I think Houston can take care of them. And then you got Rick Barnes as your 2 seed. Kentucky, you guys know, I think they're going to lose to Troy in the first round. I think the bottom of that region is no good. I would look at if Xavier beats Texas tomorrow, maybe take a shot with Xavier 35-1 to make the Elite Eight. This might be just one of those years where we have both playing games making a deep run in the tournament. I could see that happening. But Houston, again, their defense is awesome, but they can shoot this year. They're awesome from three-point range. Now, I don't think they're going to win the title, but they can certainly make the Final Four, so I would keep an eye out. I would honestly just bet Houston at the plus money, but maybe you take a shot on Gonzaga if you think they're going to upset Houston. All right, let's talk about who is going to win the national championship here on Send It In. Found a bunch of different trends. And we're going to tell you who's going to win March Madness and cut down the nets in San Antonio. So we've talked about a bunch on the show, but as you guys know, going back since 2004, you look at the Week 6 AP poll, and every champion since 2004 who has been in the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll has won the tournament. Why Week 6 is so important? It's the part of the calendar where the non-conference ends and the conference schedules are about to start, right? I don't think people realize just how important the non-conference is in college basketball because a bunch of those games you're playing, especially against really good teams, are on neutral sites, which is obviously what we get in March Madness. So you got to be inside the top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. Those 12 teams are Tennessee, Auburn, Iowa State, Duke, Kentucky, Marquette, Bama, Gonzaga, Florida, Kansas, Purdue, and Oregon. Notice I did not say Houston. They were number 15. Notice I did not say Michigan State. They were number 21. I did not say St. John's. They were unranked. Texas Tech was unranked as well. And then UConn, who's obviously trying to go for a three-peat, they were number 19. So you can eliminate some top seeds, Houston, Michigan State, St. John's, and Texas Tech as well. Top 12 of the Week 6 AP poll. After that, we cut it down by looking at every champion since 2002 has been top 40 offensive efficiency, top 22 defensive efficiency, according to KenPom. And you can limit that 12-team list down to 5 teams. Duke, Tennessee, Iowa State, Florida, and Auburn. Those are the only 5 teams out of those 12. Top 40 in offense, top 22 in defense, according to KenPom. So we can cross off Kentucky, Marquette, Bama, Gonzaga, Purdue, Oregon, and Kansas. You can knock those teams off to win the national title. We got 5 teams left. Duke, Tennessee, Iowa State, Florida, and Auburn. Since 2000, Every champion but 4 of them have shot 36% or better from three-point range. This year, we only have 3 teams of those 5 remaining that shoot at 36% or better from deep. That would be Duke, Auburn, and Iowa State. Tennessee shoots at 34% from downtown. You can knock them out. And then the Florida Gators shoot 35.5% from deep. Now, you might say that's right there. That's close. It's a half percentage point. But if the Gators lose by 2 or 3, I mean, that could be the difference between them moving on or going home. So Tennessee and Florida, knock them out. We're down to 3 teams, Duke, Auburn, and Iowa State. Every champion since 1985 has made it to the semifinals of their conference tournament. Duke did, Auburn did, Iowa State did not. So Duke and Auburn are the 2 teams left that can win the national champion. Auburn has lost 3 of their last 4 games. No team has ever lost 3 of their last 4 games heading into the NCAA tournament and won the national title. So ladies and gentlemen, by all the trends and all the things that we have found, Cooper Flagg and the Duke Blue Devils will be cutting down the nets in San Antonio.